Hey guys, welcome back to the Reed Homestead. Patrick here. No, it's been a while, so I wanted to give you a full garden build from what I did this year and just give you a bit of an update. First, I'd like to start off by saying rest in peace, Charlie. Think conservatives and Christians are definitely under attack here in America. So when you see people cheering the terrorist murder of Charlie Kirk, they're literally cheering terrorism. You can go on the FBI.gov's website and look up the definition of terrorism: violence carried out by a group or an individual motivated to sway society's politics. Basically, political violence. They're cheering terrorism. When did this become acceptable in America? You know, this happens right around 9/11. The terrorist attack on America. The reason we went to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Terrorism. We were attacked. And the country came together. George Bush had the highest approval rating of any president in U.S. history. 95% for a full year. Almost unanimous consent for use of force, military force, against terrorists and those that support them, like Saddam Hussein, who was funding Al Qaeda. You can look this up. I didn't agree with everything Charlie said, or J.D. Vance says, or Trump, whether it's tariffs or foreign policy. You know, I was, in New York, where we come from, I was a registered conservative, Conservative Party of New York State, just like Sean Hannity used to brag about being a registered conservative. Well, so was I. We moved down south. They don't have the Conservative Party, especially here in North Carolina. You're either Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or not affiliated. Those are your choices. So it's like libertarians are a third party here, but no one else is allowed to establish a political party. It's very difficult. Some of you know my dad, Bill Reed. He was the founding member of the Jefferson County Conservative Party in New York State. So he was even back then, we're talking the 1960s, when Human Events was just getting started, sending letters to their members in envelopes. That was their magazine. It was letters. And I have some of those old original communications. He was basically a disciple of William Buckley. People that had debate, civil debate. You know, they would debate the topics in a civil manner. And I think Charlie Kirk did that. Did I agree with everything? No. Should people be celebrating terrorism in America? And if so, can they be reported to their employees, and should they lose their jobs? Well, yes, they can be reported to their employers, private entities, and those employers can act however they want. It's their company. So when it comes down to it, people like Ilhan Omar or AOC, they work for us. They're government representatives. They should be held to a higher standard. So when they're cheering terrorism or dismissing it or accepting it or implying that it's acceptable because of this man's views, they're supporting terrorism, political violence. It's not okay. So I understand what's going on in the world with immigration. You can look at Italy, you can look at France, Germany, England, here in America, where you have all these immigrants coming, committing acts of violence, amongst other crimes, and nothing's done. Where is it all coming from? Well, I believe that jihadis or Islamic terrorists and communists have a lot in common when it comes down to their disdain for freedom, their disdain for Christianity, and their disdain for capitalism. So, this axis of evil throughout the world is a real thing. And it's one of the reasons I tried to get out of politics, but it's like I'm being called back in. I just wanted a homestead and raise my family. The younger generation has no idea who I am, which is good. That's kind of the way I wanted it. You know, I was the founding member of Conservative Report, the original Conservative Report, who Jack Dorsey banned from Twitter. Elon Musk has not reinstated us. He said you needed 8,000 followers to be unbanned during the great banning of conservatives. Conservative Report had 7,000. So when I appealed to Musk, he didn't unban us. And not only did Dorsey shadow ban my account, but so has Musk several times now. I've copied each time without taking screenshots. So I just wanted to stay out of it. Do some homesteading and raise my kids. And I don't think that that's an option anymore. So, anyhow, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. No, I didn't agree with everything Charlie stood for, or talked about. But he was a Christian, and that's why he was attacked and murdered. That's why this terrorist plot, who several people were involved with, was carried out. No doubt about it. And I'm not going to, stop with the conspiracy theories. The guy had a gun down the side of his leg, baggy jeans, baggy shirt. You could see it right here, the bulge. He had it down the side of his leg. That's how he got on campus. Did he break it down? Did this and that? He had the towel and all this stuff in his backpack. Stop with the conspiracy theories. Stop trying to make a name off of Charlie Kirk's death in that kind of way. It's not right. You know who you are. I've watched your videos. And thank you for the people that are reporting on school teachers, public school teachers, who should be held to the same higher standard as our public representatives for saying something and reporting these people. Unbelievable. So, cheering terrorism. So I just wanted to get back to homesteading. I've taken down a ton of trees, expanded this lawn, put up fences to keep the deer out and the pests. And that's what I've been doing. We were a very influential website in years past. I didn't sell out. I didn't do it for ads. I didn't do it for money. I didn't accept money from anyone, 501c3 crap. I didn't sell out. But it got to a point where I had a family. I wanted to do homesteading and just get out of the pollution. They try to absorb everything you say and capture your audience if you have an opinion. And that's what I learned. So it's going to happen to you. If it hasn't, it will. So be careful about that if you're in politics. which at this point I'm going to have to get back involved because I do have kids and I'm very concerned. First, before I get into all that, I just wanted to do a garden update, on what I did this year. You could do the same thing. I saved a boatload of money doing this, so let's get into the garden build. We had a bunch of trees taken down over here, okay, last spring. They were all laying down here. You can see some of them, I lined the lawn with. My son and wife planted a couple of bushes over here, but basically what I did is I cut these logs from the felled trees into measured out. You want to remove the bark, so all the bugs underneath the bark, they're going after the sugar underneath the bark. So I make my own compost over here. I got compost bins all over the place, but this is just grass clippings right here, this pile. Grass clippings and leaves. Mix it in with a little water. And you can see this was 2 weeks old. It's pretty much ready to use right now in 2 weeks. So you can make free compost just with grass clippings and leaves. Throw them in a bag on your lawnmower. Do it all at the same time. Mix it up with some water. This is my pepper patch. Part of the thing when I did this garden, I used weed barrier and wood chip. Part of the issue was it took me about 2 months of cutting, maneuvering, using my truck to pull these logs. They're way back behind the swing set trellis, tomato bed, whatever. They were way back in the corner. So I had to pull everything up, cut it into size, and then move it into position using a iron tamper. It's like a 40-pound piece of iron. It's here somewhere. There it is. So that's it. I did a video on it. You can use this for digging, prying, moving logs, all that stuff. But here's the pepper bed. Part of the problem was, of course, it took a long time to get these into position. Get them, basically this is compost. I did wood chip on the bottom, weed whack the grass to dirt, wood chip it, put in grass clippings, and then topsoil, and then after that, it's all compost. So that's why you don't see many weeds in this garden bed. I didn't finish with the weed barrier. I'll be doing that in the next week or so. Hibiscus, this is just to get the fertilizers down here, bees. Ginger, got it planted in the beginning of August. So really it's just to get it sprouted. I'm going to let it die off, and eventually we're going to tarp this. I'm going to compost it, tarp it, and this will be ready to go for next spring. It's perennial. There's some onions. Got some lettuce planted. Just put it in there a couple weeks ago. You could see right there, 1, 2, 3, 4 romaine. So little onion, ginger. That's my squash over here. This one turned into a weeded mess. I just let it go halfway through summer. I'm going to compost the heck out of it. So I kind of made mistakes on these ones, this one and that one. What I tried to do is wood chip it and then mix compost and soil together and just do it that way. No, you want the compost, your leaves and your leaves and your grass clippings. You want that on top, because that's not going to have any seeds in it. The problem with topsoil
is it's got a ton of seeds in the topsoil. So when you mix your compost and your topsoil together, as soon as those seeds hit sunlight, this is what happens. You get weeds. So, yeah, we're going to use wood chip. So I learned the lesson here. This is the tomato bed. What I did, as you can see, just made a little box of these branches, right? Nailed the swing set into it, and wood chip, then topsoil, then compost on top. So it's my kid's old swing set. You know, you can use that as a tomato bed, trellising for your tomato plants, and that's what I did. So these are Romas here. You see a bunch of them right there, here, over here. When they start blushing like that, that's when you want to pick them. And what I do is just bring them in and put them in a plastic sandwich bag, and they'll ripen up inside so the insects don't get to them. These are Bush's Better Boys right here. These are indeterminate, so as long as it stays warm, they'll continue to grow. Right here. Okay, so it's just a little tomato bed. We're gonna grab that one right here, the one that I dropped over here. What I learned is my buddy has a master in ag. He just moved in about a year and a half ago, and he said just use the wood chips as weed barrier. You know, put down 2 or 3 inches. So that's what I started doing. But these are beefsteak right here. See if you can see these. Right there. There's about 3 or 4 of them. Another couple underneath. Right here. And then more Romas. Most of these are Romas. There are some San Marzinos over here, Marzanos over here, and some beefsteak, some Bush's Better Boys. Okay, so that's it. This is my pumpkin run. Really, June and July stunted the growth of the pumpkins and watermelon, but there you go. There's a little watermelon guy. There's another one right here. There. So I'm feeding these as much as I can. It's halfway through September, and it's already cold. It's in the 50s overnight, so who knows how long that's going to last. But here are the clippings I did from last spring. This is rosemary right here, just from clippings of rosemary. You can root those. I did a video on it, so you can check those out. Here's the food forest, right? So strawberry plants. These are June berries, June strawberries. So they mainly produce in June, July, and that's it. Then they start spreading. This is the Granny Smith, attacked by the Japanese beetle. Here's blackberries in the middle. It came up, grew over here, and then came back and attached to the Red Delicious, which grew. Both of these trees grew. This one came under pretty bad attack by the Japanese beetle. There's our new fig right here. Onion bunches. So when you buy green onions from the store, you'll notice that they have roots on the bottom. After you chop those down and use them in salad or soup, put them in water. The roots will start growing. I haven't had to buy green onions or onion bunches in a couple years. New fig tree, planted this in the spring. It was maybe 4 inches, so that's exploded. This is all going to be one big garden bed. There's the asparagus bed. I've got to wood chip all of this still. I had a corn garden here. We had this tree taken down over the summer. Took out all the corn. That's the cherry tree. Once again, attacked by the Japanese beetles. Decimated it. Here is the magnolia that I performed the repair on. Remember, last spring, end of winter, I came in, the deer went through with deer rubs from their antlers, and they rip off all the branches. So I went in and created like a little makeshift band-aid, and you can see, boom, came right back to restoration. That's the grapevine that I transplanted last winter, end of last winter, right here. It produced, again, it got attacked by the Japanese beetle. Anything that's sweet or produces fruit, that Japanese beetle is going to attack. So these are seedless Candace over here, purple, seedless Candace. So it's not going to produce any fruit apparently. This is a muscadine. That's a muscadine. Seedless Candace, seedless Candace. So purple, purple, green, green. I still have to trellis those, which I'll be doing. You just wet the soil down. We have red clay here. So you just wet the soil down and then dig your holes. You can use a power washer to dig the hole. I mean, I never thought of that before. Here's another compost bin. Again, it's just leaves and grass. You know, you get a pile of leaves when you're cutting your lawn, put the bag on your mower, and for every 3 rows of grass that you do, you know, mulch up some leaves and it mixes together in the bag. Then empty the bag into your wheelbarrow, you know, fill it up and start composting. So you get free compost, saving $8 a bag. Potato bed here. We've got some parsley. We got oregano right here. This is oregano, parsley. Got some mint back here. That is the, last winter we bought a couple of trees from eBay. So those are the trees. Here are the rest of the peppers. Chocolate butla. So that was a shrimp. I basically transplanted it from the pepper bed down there into a pot, and it started doing really good. It just started flowering. Hopefully we'll get some peppers off that. This, I believe, is Primo Reaper mix. Right here you can see how it's kind of turning purple. You know, I believe that might even be chocolate Primo. Got more over here. These are super hots. So again, basically between 1 and 2 million on the Scoville. Way hotter than a jalapeno. Straight 8 cucumbers. I didn't get these in till late because building the garden took so long, Here's my buddy's advice using the wood chip as weed barrier. Here are the rocket tomatoes. These were volunteers from last year's garden. Some of the tomatoes will just drop, and this one just grew, so I didn't even have to seed that at all. So straight 8 cucumber, basically for juicing or salads. Another straight 8 back here, trellising. I just used my pavilion and strung up, just using twine, strung up for trellising. Giant jalapeno plant, Tabasco. We'll have some Tabasco sauce. These are Reaper Primo Mix. I've already done some harvesting off this. They got a bunch more flowers. Usually it stays warm in the 80s until late October or October. We're talking mid-September. I think it was 75 today, but it's cold overnight. So I'm just hoping that we'll be able to get some more growth. Hopefully it'll warm back up for a little while. I know it's hurricane season, so I'm sure we'll get some warm weather coming back up. These are bell peppers. Harvested a ton of those this year. Here's my national pickle plant right here. So we'll take that. You don't want to let them go yellow. They start going yellow. So the more you pick, the more the plant will produce. This is over here. You see that? That's a lemon pickle. First year I've tried growing this. So just kind of trellis it up and help these guys make connections so they get support. All right, I'm not gonna get in there, but just kind of tuck them in, and they'll send out these tentacles and create support, okay, for itself. So you just kind of help that along a little bit. What I do is the bees have calmed down a little, so I'll just stick my finger in there. I already did this yesterday, but you just go from flower to flower, and you'll get some pollen on your fingertip, and just move the pollen around from flower to flower, and that's how you'll get more pickles. And that's true of any plant, anything with flowers. All right, right here, up here. I did all these yesterday. So that's how you fertilize for more food. This is lemon balm. It's great for tea. If you like to put, I put basil, lemon balm, mint in my ice water. It was very warm over this summer. July was very hot. So that's basically it. Here's my Meyer lemon bush. Didn't produce any lemons this year, but it grew. So we're going to keep this alive, trim it down, keep it alive over the winter, and we'll get it to produce a lot more lemons next year. I'm going to overwinter a lot of these, which just involves trimming it down, finding a couple new nubs, trimming it down to just above those, towards the bottom, cleaning it out, cleaning the root system out, and putting it in fresh soil, keeping it under bright light for 12 hours a day. It'll continue to grow. It won't produce peppers, but by the time next spring rolls around, you'll have a full pepper plant ready to go, and it'll produce peppers a lot earlier. So one of the branches from one of the widow makers up here fell, landed on my glass table. So I had to wood chip all that, pick up all that glass. But that's basically it for the garden update. Again, unfortunately, we live in dark times, and there's no question about that. And, you know, what can one person do? Well, you certainly don't have to be quiet. You don't have to remain silent, okay? So find a light within you and share your opinion, you know? Yeah, I see the million, maybe we should have a million Charlie Kirk march in Washington, D.C. Maybe TPUSA could organize something like that. Instead of the million Islamist march, have a million Charlie Kirk march. You know, I'm going to be getting back involved. I have a website. I haven't done much with it. I've got a lot of information to share. Like Radcliffe report in 2020 that no one talks about. Russia, Iran, and China were rigging the election. We say rigged election in 2020, but we don't mention the Radcliffe report about Russia, China, and Iran rigging an American election. They wanted Joe Biden. Now they got Trump, and foreign policy-wise, he's worse, in my opinion. What's yours? Well, doesn't matter to me. I've got a lot of information to share, and we're going to get on to it. So, from the Reed Homestead, I'm going to continue to do what I like. I'm going to raise my family. I'm going to continue to grow my own food, so I don't have to rely on corporate America or governments that are going to shut down grocery stores. So I'm going to continue to do what I do, but I'm also going to get re-involved, reactivated. Okay? In the meantime, guys, that's all from the Reed Homestead. Until next time, God bless. God bless. Rest in peace, Charlie. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.